This is the Premier League preview. It's with me, David Easson. It's with Paul Robinson and with Neil Mellor as well. I've even got a button I can press that says, oh no, let's do this right. There we go. Not this one. Let's start this again. There we go. Sometimes you get things right. Premier League preview. Neil Mellor, Paul Robinson. Good. I'm about to say Happy New Year, Paul, but you're a bit like, yeah, season's in the middle of things, but we're doing okay, aren't we?
Yeah, New Year's not for me, and I think Mels will probably agree with our career, the way that you play over Christmas and New Year. There's no such thing, and I've never been one for New Year's Day. Listen, if you're £1 million in debt on New Year's Eve, you're still £1 million in debt on New Year's Day, plus a little bit more with a stinking hangover. I just don't get the whole thing.
There you go. I mean, Christmas was he's not bar humbug at Christmas, but it's a strange. We're in this winter break now, aren't we, Neil? Where we've got the split Premier League games that we're looking at this week and next week. Some teams have given themselves or been able to give themselves a couple of days off. One, does that work for a club? Do you need that rhythm? Some teams need that rhythm. Otherwise, you've seen FA Cup replays being. Well, they're still being played, and Premier League sides have not got themselves into the next round, and they don't have a break.
Yeah, I think it's quite unusual because it wasn't really there for our time. It's something new that's been sort of developed and tried, this sort of winter break. It's a busy time, isn't it? Christmas and New Year. We've had loads of games. We've had, obviously, Premier League games. We've had the FA Cup games. We've now just had the League Cup semi-finals as well. It's also the transfer window's open. There's a lot going on, rumours, signings, injuries. A lot of teams suffering with injuries at the moment as well. I've got no problem at all with these FA Cup replays. I'm a big believer in the FA Cup third round and the dreams and hopes what it gives all the teams throughout the football pyramid. So for these Premier League teams who are having to have replays, unlucky. It's just one of those things. But yeah, it's not ideal for them because they wanted this little break to get players a little bit fresher, ready to go for the run-in, which it will be after this little break.
Okay, I'm going to put one talking point at you. I'm going to throw one thing at you, which is if it's two Premier League sides in a third round game, should they be allowed to decide pre-match, we'll finish it today?
No, absolutely not.
Brentford, Thomas Frank said it was the worst possible result for him was getting a replay against Wolves.
But listen, I mean, there's an argument for it, and you look at the way that the games came out this round. I mean, Everton Crystal Palace on a Thursday night because of policing reasons or whatever. I mean, neither manager wanted that. No television company wanted it. Nobody wanted to watch it, and the game lived up to its expectation. It was diabolical. But I mean, the third round of the FA Cup, it is magic. Keep the replays in there. It is what it is. These lower league teams live for the FA Cup in the third round and the chance of getting a big gun. And you don't mess with one of the most historic parts of English football. I mean, I grew up on the FA Cup. Used to love FA Cup Saturdays, Sundays. The final. It was brilliant. The only thing I would change, if you're going to alter it, in the first round, have a seeded round so we don't get these all Premier League ties. Premier League and Championship, seeded draw against the lower league team, and then give the lower league team the choice of whether they want to play home or away. That's the only thing if you're going to change.
You've just said don't mess with the FA Cup. You're messing about with it seeded. The whole beauty of the FA Cup, beauty of the FA Cup is coming out and going, God, don't want them. Don't want them away. Even the Premier League teams, Liverpool, when Arsenal came out, don't want them, got them. And that is the magic of the FA Cup. You'll always get these big ties, which the big clubs don't want. But the likes of the non-league clubs, what is it, Maidstone, the hope, the dream. I know they've got Ipswich in the next round, but the dream of it being at Anfield or Old Trafford, that is what the FA Cup's about, yeah. But yeah, no seeding, never, ever seed the FA Cup. Keep that in the League Cup, which I'm sure will finish in a couple of years anyway because of the way the European competitions are getting extended.
Yeah, the one thing they do in Germany, isn't it? Start of the season, they have the first round of the cup, and the smaller side is always at home, which I think in this country wouldn't go down very well. I think sometimes you want the small side. If you're Eastleigh or Newport going to Manchester United, possibly you want to go to Old Trafford. You also want to split that money, which is a different thing altogether.
I think if you give them the choice, if you give the lower league club the choice, if you're not going to seed it, if there is a lower league team, the lower ranked side in the tie, whoever they get the option of whether they play home or away, but only in the third round.
Yeah, I don't mind that one. That's a good show. I'm okay with that one.
Oh, there we go. We're all agreed for a new year. Good stuff. Let's get on with it then. We'll talk some football, and we will start with the 12:30 kickoff on Saturday. It's Chelsea versus Fulham. We've got 1.63 for Chelsea. The draw is 4.1. Fulham are 5.3. Both off the back of League Cup semi-final first leg defeats. But Neil Mellor, I think you'd probably suggest that both have... Well, mate, you compare the two performances in midweek and you say Fulham at 5.3 might be worth a shout going to Chelsea, although Chelsea's home form is picking up.
Chelsea 1.63, no chance. Yeah, I'm not even sure I touched them if they're playing against a bottom three team the way that Chelsea have been this season. Chelsea are the form team. If you look at the Premier League results, Chelsea I think won 3 of the last 4 Premier League games. Fulham have lost 3 of the last 4. Fulham don't travel well. You have to bear that in mind. But I tell you what, Fulham are a decent side. I watched them on Wednesday night at Anfield in that League Cup semi-final. They're organised, they're disciplined. They do not give much space away. They're so compact. I think Palina is one of the best central defensive midfield players in the Premier League, if not Europe. Yeah, people will throw Rodri in the mix and Rice. Palina's right up there. He is absolutely brilliant. So they're organised defensively and they've got a threat going forward. I think Jimenez is a presence. Willian will join the support. Pereira, Reed, who I think is a little bit wasteful at times. But yeah, Fulham at 5.3, a much better value for this bet than Chelsea at 1.63. They're not good travellers, Fulham, but they're a decent Premier League side.
Paul, Chelsea might be looking to... Well, they need someone to put the ball in the back of the net. Cole Palmer's been pretty good this season. He's probably been one of the standout players. Probably in the Premier League, he's a breakthrough player. But he missed a hatful against Middlesbrough in midweek. They don't have Nicholas Jackson, and they're waiting for Nkunku, who comes in and then goes out injured again.
Yeah, we got a lot of stick Pochettino midweek, didn't he, for playing Cole Palmer in a false 9 role, if you like. But he was kind of vindicated with the amount of chances that Cole Palmer had. He just couldn't finish them. And that's been a problem with Chelsea, hasn't it, scoring goals. I think that they're putting a little bit of form together, bar the result at Middlesbrough, which isn't a disaster. They're only 1-0 down in a 2-leg semi-final. It's half-time in that. Looking at the form, 5 wins, 2 defeats in the last 7. Like you say, Nicholas Jackson's missing, but is that a big miss? He's not really scoring. He's not firing on all cylinders. Decent win in the FA Cup against Preston, which continues their run of form. And listen, I think they're too much for Fulham. I do. I think that's why they're too short. And I think you look at the odds there, Fulham are that price because they haven't won at Stamford Bridge in the league since 1979, when I was born. I mean, a dinosaur. That's how long ago it is since Fulham have won in the league at the Bridge. Away from home, like Neil says, Fulham are awful. Last 3 games conceded 3 or more goals away from home. And that's the reason why Chelsea are such strong favourites at home at the Bridge.
Yeah, sometimes we talk about how history doesn't really come into it, but this is the most one-sided match in Premier League history. I think Fulham have only won 10% of, I think, all matches. Never mind the Premier League, even before football was invented. 10% of all matches between these two, Fulham have won, which is not a great strike rate. But can you back? I mean, Chelsea 1.63. Do you have to build that up? I mean, my mug bet would be put Cole Palmer in for something, for at least a couple of goals in this one, Paul.
Yeah, you have to build your way in if you're going to go Chelsea. I can't see anything other than Chelsea win. History, recent form, Fulham's away form, etc. Yes, Fulham were good, decent at Anfield, and I think they have played well sporadically this season. But they're coming off a run of decent form, but that was off the back of 3 or 4 defeats and heavy defeats. Away from home, they don't travel well. So that's why Chelsea's are short. The bet for me is build your way in with Chelsea. It's a home win, both teams to score because Chelsea are susceptible. They leak, they concede goals. Both teams to score a home win and then pick a goal scorer. That's your way in for me in this one.
Well, if you want to have both teams to score, Chelsea to win and Cole Palmer to score once, anytime, is 5. A couple for Palmer makes that 13. Neil, are you thinking Fulham might have more to say about this?
Absolutely. Yeah, I've been nowhere near Chelsea at them odds. I think they're too inconsistent. I think, yes, they've had a little bit of pick-up in form, but you saw the performance at Middlesbrough the other day. There may be a response from that. They had a lot of criticism, didn't they? And I know they're still in, certainly the semi-final for that second leg. But, yeah, for me, Fulham showed that, yeah, they've had a few bad results away from home, but they're not an easy team to beat. I know they've had a couple of heavy defeats, but for me, I looked at Fulham the other night, I was thinking, they've got a lot to play for in this January. After that defeat at Anfield, they're still in the tie. They'll want to make sure going into a little break before that second leg that they put in a decent performance against Chelsea. And a lot's been made about they've not won there since 1979. I wasn't born. Not even in my lifetime Fulham have won there at Chelsea. But I think this will be a close game. I really do. I think both teams' to score is a good one. But I'd be all over the draw at 4.1. They're good odds for the draw for me.
Okay, that's Chelsea versus Fulham. That is the first game. It's not the first game of the weekend, but it's the first game on the Saturday, the 12:30 kickoff. You can follow that in the Clubhouse with sportsbet.io. It's a Premier League preview, and it's a chance to look at Newcastle versus Manchester City with Paul and Neil. There's some big games this weekend, although they're spread around. They're all on TV in the UK, which is good for once. The draw is 4.4. Home side, who are very good at home, 5.6. City are 1.56. Neil Mellor, we'll start with you on this one. I'm sure you'll be hoping, I'm not sure about the family, but you'll be hoping that City will go to Newcastle and get turned over like they have done. It's been a difficult place for them to go, although they've got some players back. And when I say some, I mean all of their good ones.
I've got it down as they've lost once in 19 years at Newcastle. So it's actually been a really good place for them to go. They're only
the new Newcastle.
Yeah, the new Newcastle. Well, you know, I think from a Liverpool point of view, and maybe Arsenal, if you want to include them in the title race, you're thinking this is a tough game for City. But those odds show that people are looking at City now and thinking they're going to go on a bit of a run. They've come back from winning the World Cup championships, and they look like they're winning games. They look good again, don't they? I mean, Haaland's not even in the team. Doku and De Bruyne are back fit. Whether they both play, I'm not sure. Probably. But this is Newcastle are really strong at home. I know they've had a real dip in terms of Premier League results and did get beat surprisingly to Forest. You're thinking there's going to be some kind of a reaction at home from Newcastle for this one. They'll make it difficult. I don't think City win the game comfortably. I think it will be a close one, but you'd be looking at City nicking it rather than Newcastle, I think.
Paul, I was at the... I think we were all at the game where they went to Liverpool and got beat 4-2. It was a strange game, that one. What did you make of Newcastle performance there? Because they were in the game all the way through, but Liverpool were pretty dominant.
They were in the game, but they were never in the game. I mean, they had two chances with Isak playing on the shoulder, and they played counter-attacking football, and they hit Liverpool on the break. I mean, 4-2 flattered them, in all honesty. The penalty in the first half, what Salah missed, the opportunities that Liverpool had. I mean, Liverpool should have been out of sight within 20, 25 minutes. You wouldn't have been able to argue if Liverpool went in 3 or 4-0 up at half-time. They were that dominant. They were that good. Dubravka had an excellent game in the Newcastle goal. And I look at the starting 11 again that Eddie Howe put out, and it's a starting 11 that should be playing better and should be getting better results than it is, but it isn't. So, you know, when is this? You talk about the injuries and the suspensions. Yeah, I get it. I understand all the players that he's had missing, and he still has. But when you look at his starting 11, you look at his replacements that he's been able to bring off the bench week in and week out, it should be doing better than it is. I mean, the recent run is really poor. They're 11 points off the top 4 now. They're out of Europe. You know, they're out of the Carabao Cup. What is a good season for Newcastle looking like? And they've been outplayed in a lot of games that I've seen. And the way that Liverpool played against them, granted it was at Anfield, and Liverpool can do that to anyone at Anfield, but Manchester City do it to anyone on any football pitch in the world. It's going to be a tough game for Newcastle at the weekend. Know that it's St James's Park. They'll create an atmosphere. They're very good at home, or better than they are away from home, let's say. But I just think that Manchester City have got far too much, like Neil said, with De Bruyne coming back in, Doku coming back in, Haaland coming back in at some point. You just expect this City machine to keep on rolling. Before the Club World Cup Championships, 1 win in 6 games. Look at them now, 3 wins on the bounce since they've come back. They're looking like potential champions again.
And they'll want to make a mark, won't they, with Liverpool not playing this weekend? They'll just make that point, although it's kind of their game in hand, particularly on the teams around them at the top.
I think it's the first proper test, though, isn't it, since they have come back. They played Everton away, which you'd say you'd fancy them to win. They beat Sheffield United at home, which, of course, looked like it was a banker, and that was only 2-0. We thought it'd be more. Huddersfield in the Cup wasn't really a test. So this is the proper test that City have had since they had that difficult run before they went away and won the World Cup Championships. It'd be interesting to see how they deal with that. I think defensively, I think they've struggled. They've only had 1 clean sheet in 9 away. You have to bear that in mind. I think both teams to score would really appeal to me in this one. Looking at players in form, Isak is in great form. What's his goal scoring record? He's got 4 in his last 3 games. Alvarez for City, he's got 5 in his last 4 games. So they're your informed players if you are looking at adding a goal scorer for it. Isak and Alvarez to score, both teams to score. I hope it's a draw, but I think the obvious one would probably be City nick it.
Is it a tempter for Pep to keep Haaland out and have a longer break, Paul? Or do you need to get him
Yeah,
playing?
he's got more than enough without him. I think he has. I think Alvarez will play. We're led to believe this morning that he's not back in full training yet. So I don't think we'll see him. I don't think he'll probably travel with the squad. And I think Pep's looking at the league table, he's looking at the points, what other teams are dropping around him. And he's thinking, right, got De Bruyne back in the mix now, got Doku back in the mix, get Haaland back, give him another couple of weeks, get him absolutely fully fit and firing and getting ready. Listen, Newcastle put up a fight. It'll be a tough game, but I think City have just got far too much pace and power going forward. But there's one absolute banker. There's a way in this weekend if you're backing a City win. A City win, potentially both teams to score, but your absolute nap of the weekend is Bruno Guimaraes to get booked. He's got 14 yellow cards for club and country this season. His yellow card last week was his 5th in a row. So Guimaraes to get booked in a Man City win. That's your banker for the weekend, a yellow card for Bruno.
There you go. You can have Alvarez anytime. City win. Both teams to score. Guimaraes card in your bet builder at 9. So you can build that up
There you go.
wherever you want it to be. If you want to take Alvarez out and just put the Guimaraes card in, that's 6.25. There are ways in, and particularly with the bet builder, you can do that with sportsbet.io, and you can follow that game with us in the Clubhouse as well, here on sportsbet.io in the Clubhouse. Another Premier League preview to put your way. Everton, Aston Villa, one of the oldest games in English football. 2.82 for Everton. The draw is 3.5. Aston Villa are 2.46. Paul Robinson and Neil Mellor looking at this one. The 2 o'clock kickoff on Sunday. Aston Villa, Paul Robinson. I think we mentioned last time how disappointed we were with the way that they played, particularly in the second half against Manchester United. But they'll be looking forward to this, won't they? Everton they've completely turned form again.
Yeah, I mean, Everton's dip in form. They'll be boosted by the overturning of the red card of Calvert-Lewin, but they haven't scored for 2 games, Everton. They have those 4 fantastic wins, which wiped out that 10-point margin, and we discussed it, didn't we? We said, is there a few of them that feel that that's it, job done? And results and performances since then. I mean, they went away to Spurs, and let's be completely honest, they got beat, but they deserved something from that game. They certainly deserved the point, if not a little bit more, the way that they played. He's got them playing for them. For him, Sean Dyche, I think he's the perfect manager in this situation. They've only drawn twice this season, Everton. Their away form's been better than the home form at Goodison. And I think with Villa going there, Villa are just, there's that little bit of expectancy around Villa now, isn't there? I mean, nobody expected them to be potentially in a title challenging position. Are they realistically or not? League would suggest they are. Common sense would probably say they're not. They're in a top 4 battle. But now expectation is there for them. They're in the position they are because the results have gone their way. They've been performing particularly well. And the expectation and the pressure for them to stay there is more than it was. It's not going to be an easy place going to for Goodison. Everton don't score that many. But also he likes to keep a clean sheets, does Sean. But Villa going there, I mean, looking at the record, Ollie Watkins loves going to Everton. 5 goal contributions in the last 7 versus Everton. They had a decent performance last time out against Burnley that you would expect them to win. Winning the FA Cup at Borough, which we saw Chelsea go there and struggle in the League Cup. So, the signs are coming back after a poor second half display at Old Trafford, which the manager would be very disappointed about after taking a 2-goal lead.
I didn't quite know how one-sided this had been in the last few games. 9 games between Everton and Villa in the Premier League, and it's 7 wins for Villa, 2 draws, unbeaten in 9. Yeah, we won't mention bogey teams. Fulham against Chelsea is probably bogey team number 1. But it's one of those. It should be a good game of football, this, shouldn't it? The way both teams. Yeah. It's a bit of a contrast.
Yeah, I mean, Everton aren't in form. They have lost the last 3 Premier League games, but at home they've beaten Chelsea and Newcastle, which were good wins. Obviously beaten at City the last home one. So 1-2 of the last 3. And this will be a really tough game for Villa. I do think that a lot's being made about Aston Villa away from home this season. I think they've won 2 of the last 4 games, but they've conceded more goals than they've scored away from home. And that is a problem for Aston Villa. That's something that they need to turn around to get it the other way. If they are going to be in a top 4 battle, they are not in a title race. I will not talk about that until April. But yeah, they are maybe still in a top 4 race. Tough game for them. I think Everton gets something from this game. I really do believe that. Like you say, a little quiz question for you both. Everton haven't beaten Aston Villa at home for 9 years. So like you say, it has been sort of a bogey team travelling to Goodison. 4-0 was the scoreline. I want to know the goal scorers for Everton that day. The last time they beat Villa it was 4-0. And your clue is both players went on 2015.
15.
Both players went on to play for Chelsea. So it was 4-0. Two players got 2 goals each for Everton. Both went on to play.
Ross Barkley.
Both. No, too easy, the clue, wasn't it?
It's too easy. You rolled it in there. No. It's a good layup. It's a cushioned header for us there. That's what that was.
Long time, But I'm on Everton to get something from this game. So I don't think they'll win. I'm more on the draw. So Everton not to lose the game for me.
That draw at 3.5 might be a bit of a standout, Paul, because you look at Villa's away form, as we mentioned, and 4 wins, 2 draws, 4 defeats. That they need to improve that. It looks a little bit like Newcastle last season, and Newcastle did get in the top 4 in the end, but it was the away form that just meant that they weren't involved in a title race last season.
Yeah, the away form and the performances at home, the recent draw with Sheffield United as well. That probably set a few alarm bells ringing. That's something that needs to be addressed. They need to continue playing the way they are and winning at home. Obviously, getting results on the road, but picking up points on the road. I mean, I don't expect goals in this one, Dave. I really don't. I'm looking at Everton. They've scored 11 at home this season and conceded 12. So I fancy the unders in the goals. Quite like a draw. I think Villa will go there. It's a game that neither team will want to lose. Quite fancy a draw, but fancy the unders on the goals. I go under 2.5 goals and potentially a draw in this.
Okay, let's build that one up then if you like. Oh, it's not going to let me. Let me build that bet. No, well, you can build it. The draw is 3.5. Under 2.5 goals is, let's find it on the handicap, is, let's see, 2.16. So something to build there, particularly with the way the Villa, you might get something because I think the traders will think the Villa will be scoring a couple of goals here, the way that they've shown this season. But we're in that strange period just after Christmas, just after the FA Cup, and we'll see what both of these sides can provide. Oh, go on then.
Goal scorer, just quickly. Paul's mate, who he loves to mention in every podcast, Jack Harrison. He's got 1 in 15 for Everton, and he scored in the last home game, so maybe he gets back-to-back goals at home for Everton.
Unless he's a 1 in 15 man. But that's
unless he's a 1 in 15 man.
4 for Jack Harrison anytime in this game. That's Everton against Aston Villa. Yeah, him and Dwight McNeil have actually, they give Everton some good width, don't they? And just attacking support, really, because the last few seasons, it's all been about trying to get Calvert-Lewin fit, and if he's not there, then there's no one to get on the end of anything.
Well, the way that they play, they give him the defensive support as well. They go both ways, which is what Sean Dyche demands of his team. Yes, they're a good attacking threat. They work hard going forward, but they also put in the same shift going the other way and support their fullbacks and double up on the attacking players, which is what he demands of his team.
Okay, well, we'll see if they can get something out of Everton, Aston Villa on a Sunday, 2 o'clock kickoff in the Premier League. Big Sunday afternoon affair for you is Manchester United versus Tottenham. United are 2.22. The draw is 3.8. Tottenham 3.05. I'm going to start with the former Tottenham man, Paul Robinson. Your former side are back in form, I'm going to suggest. Things are looking... You're even buying players and giving them debuts in January. What's going on with Tottenham?
We're buying players in January before there's been Premier League football kicked. There's no cameras at the training ground on the transfer deadline day. We've made 2 marquee signings, big signings, before a Premier League ball's been kicked, which actually you've got to give the chairman a little bit of credit for at Tottenham. He comes in for a lot of flack and he gets a lot of stick, does Daniel. But actually, for the previous 4 or 5 years, we've been screaming, want a trophy, want a trophy. And he's listened to the fans and he's gone and got Mourinho and Conte, win now, trophy managers. That didn't work, not been able to do that. And then after that, it's been, we want our Tottenham back. We want to play the way that we like to watch. We want to see a different style of football. He's listened to the fans again. He's gone and got Ange Postecoglou. The way that they're playing now is fantastic. It's front foot football. And Ange just, he's earned the right to go in there at the beginning of January, go bang on Daniel Levy's door and saying, look, I've lost Basuma, I've lost Sarr, I've lost Son, all to the international teams. I'm missing Romero, I'm missing Van der Ven. I need some players. And to be fair to the chairman, again, he's stumped up and he's brought in Timo Werner and Dragusin. Dragusin, I think, is a brilliant signing because Romero's going to spend half the season suspended anyway. We know that. Banker for a yellow card, as we always say. with Dragusin coming in, he's played every game for Genoa this season and last season, and he's a ready-made, not a replacement, but another alternative, and he can play this weekend. I mean, he can hit the ground running. I just think there's a lot of good signs, a lot of positives for Tottenham at the moment. Going to a Manchester United side who, we don't know what they're going to do. They're very unpredictable, very beatable. I mean, they were celebrating a 2-0 win against a lowly League One side in Wigan at the weekend in the FA Cup. So for me, it's a very, very good time to play Manchester United, and I'm looking forward to seeing a slightly new look Tottenham at Old Trafford.
Yeah, sounds you might even have Van de Ven back as well, and Maddison can't be far off, and it does seem to be just coming back together. Neil, for Manchester United, they play okay, and then they don't play well at all. Then they play okay, and then they don't play well at all. They are classic up and down side. You cannot predict anything you get for them, other than there isn't much of a. I'm going to say there wasn't much of a heart. You can't say that about footballers, but the way they play doesn't look like it at times.
Yeah, something's still not right there, is there? Obviously, the takeover's gone on. They've just lost Sancho, spent a lot of money on him. Obviously, doesn't get on with the manager. They're very inconsistent. You're looking at this sort of game and you're thinking, could well get beat again. I think at home they've been better. I think you have to say that. They've won 3 of the last 4 games. The only defeat was that one to Bournemouth, which was a surprise. And Tottenham arrive at Manchester United having had a boost of a couple of decent signings. Obviously, one in defence, who I don't know a lot about, but will certainly strengthen them there. I think Eric Dyer must have won the lottery with that move to Bayern Munich, by the way. But yeah, and also Timo Werner. I like Werner. Okay, it didn't work for him at Chelsea, but he's a threat and he makes things happen. And okay, he didn't score enough goals at Chelsea, but he will make things happen and he'll cause problems for that United defence. So I think both teams to score is certainly one that appeals to me. I couldn't touch Tottenham at 3s. I think United have better value at 2.2 to win the game. I think both teams to score, maybe United to nick it because they are stronger at home.
Paul, are you back? I reckon you will be back in your men to go to Old Trafford and get something. This is one of those classic Old English games. Again, similar to Everton Aston Villa. It's a proper Old English clash.
Yeah, that's a good price for Tottenham away. I mean, the way that they're playing at the moment, the way that they play, United won't like it. The high press, the high tempo. You look at United back four, you look at the way that they concede goals. Manchester United are struggling to score goals and they ship goals for fun. I mean, there's only the bottom 2 clubs in the Premier League that have scored less goals than Manchester United this season, which is an incredible stat. So when you look at that and you look at the way Tottenham play, Tottenham are almost guaranteed that you're going to get goals from them. So United are going to have to score if they're going to beat Tottenham. And I can't see them scoring enough to beat Tottenham. There's one thing in this one. There's a little outside bet for you in this one that I was looking at when I was reading up on this game. Spurs' last 5 visits to Manchester United, there's been 4 penalties. So if you fancy a little penalty bet, there's a little outside bet in there somewhere. But no, for me, it's an away win, Dave.
A weird one that Onana's playing for. I mean, Cameroon played the next day in AFCON, and he said, "Oh, well, I'm going to stick around. I'll stay." And even though he's in the squad, and Cameroon has said, "All right, then you can stay there. Then don't play in the first game of AFCON." What does that say about? I suppose he wants to keep proving himself for Manchester United, doesn't he, Paul? Because he's not had the greatest of seasons, but surely as a goalkeeper, if you've got an international tournament on your mind as well, how does that work? Or does it?
Well, he doesn't want to lose his shirt. He's guaranteed to lose his shirt because he's burning away with his international team. But he wants to do everything that he can to prove that he is the number one. I mean, for me, it's a signing that hasn't worked. He's not a better goalkeeper than David De Gea. And the impact that he was going to have, or what they wanted him to have with his feet and playing out from the back, has at times been more of a hindrance because it slowed them down. I think it's been a signing that hasn't worked. I mean, he's the reason they're not in the Champions League. You look at the goals that he's conceded in the Champions League, and nearly probably 70 to 80% of them, he was involved, whether directly or indirectly, in a mistake that led to a goal. And I think he probably feels a little bit under pressure in the Manchester United team. And I think he knows that he's going away and he wants to cut down the opportunity for somebody else to show what they can do, whether it be 4 games, 5 games. I'm not, I don't know what the amount of games is that he's going to miss. But if he's going to miss 5 games, he wants to make sure it's only 4. If he's going to miss 4, he wants to make sure it's only 3, simply because he doesn't want to give anyone the chance to take his shirt.
An odd situation, but he wants to stay in the side. Neil, you're thinking United will just about nick this? I think a split decision from both of you.
Yeah, I've not gained enough trust on Tottenham. 1 win and 4 away. Yes, better at home. A few good wins at home, but away from home, still not convinced. Been beaten at Brighton, beaten at Wolves. Looking at this game, thinking, yeah, I think they'll score. I just don't think that they'll get the victory. A draw would be a good result for them. I'm fancying United to nick it. And Paul mentioned about penalties. What about Bruno Fernandes? He scored, didn't he, against Wigan in the FA Cup? He's got 1 goal in the Premier League at Old Trafford this season, and that was against Nottingham Forest. He is due another goal at Old Trafford in the Premier League. That was back in August, I think, that game against Forest. Yeah. So Bruno Fernandes, maybe to get himself on the score sheet, and the United win, that would enhance it. Maybe close to 3, 4, something like that.
That was a ropey penalty as well. 3.25 for Bruno Fernandes to score. 2.75 for a penalty in the game. Not even one missed. Just a penalty to be given is 2.75. Doesn't have to be scored. No penalties. 1.4. That is Manchester United versus Tottenham. All big games this weekend in the Premier League, and you can follow them all in the Clubhouse with sportsbet.io. It is time for the score predictions as we head into 2024. Paul Robinson, Neil Mellor, just preparing themselves, girding themselves. Oh, bit of a stretch. That's nice. Don't put yourself out there. So we've got these 5 games to look ahead to this weekend. We're going to start with the Friday night game. It's the one you've all been waiting for. It's Burnley versus Luton. Burnley versus... we've not gone too in-depth on this one. But, Paul, your old side, showing a bit of spark about them. 1.96 to go and win at home against Luton. 3.85 Luton, 3.65 the draw. What's your feelings on Burnley Luton?
A bit of spark about them. When have you watched them?
They scored a goal. Come on.
I don't see it, and especially not at home. Use my favourite phrase, the sleepwalking towards relegation. They've won 1 in 10 at home, which is an all-time Premier League low for the first 10 games. And that's not form that's going to keep you in the Premier League. Lyle Foster's back. Him and Amdouni present a goal threat. They're good at what they do, but I just don't think they're good enough to be in the Premier League with the side that they've got. I think Luton have got better players in Doherty, in Adebayo. I think they've got goals in that team. And I think Luton will go there and cause them a problem. Listen, you look at it, it's a championship game. It's not going to be one of the Premier League highlights. It's not going to be a Premier League classic. Burnley are not good at home, don't score enough goals. I can see Luton going there and doing a job on them.
What's the score?
Oh, let's go. Give Burnley a goal. 2-1 Luton. Hard fought 2-1 Luton.
2-1 Luton. Luton not really... Well, they've had a couple of wins, haven't they, Neil? They've beaten Newcastle. They won away at Sheffield United. That was a big win for them. A draw against Bolton in the Cup, 0-0. Again, you could say unlucky. Came back against Chelsea. They really do have something about them, but they need to turn those performances into more points.
Yeah, the incentive for Luton is they can get out of the bottom 3 with a victory. I think that the thing for Burnley is they're aware that the gap is already in quite a big gap to Luton. They can't afford that to get any bigger. So it's sort of a must-not-lose game. They've turned Luton over already this season, and I think they will again. I'm going to go against form. I know Burnley have lost the last couple. Luton have won 2 of the last 3 games. I'm going to go for a home victory because it's a massive one for Burnley. They've beaten Sheffield United already at home, and maybe they beat the other promoted team, Luton. I'm going for 2-1 for Burnley.
2-1 Burnley. Right, okay, we'll move into Saturday's games with you, Neil. Chelsea-Fulham.
I'm going against form again. Chelsea have won 3 in a row at home. Fulham have lost 4 away in a row in the Premier League. I'm going to go for a draw. I think Fulham get something. I think they'll be compact. I think they'll frustrate Chelsea. Chelsea is so unpredictable. Can't really trust them. So 1-1 for me.
1-1 for Neil. What are you saying, Paul?
Going with history. Fulham's record at the Bridge, awful. You know, they've not won there for a very long time. Chelsea showing shoots of recovery as they do, go around the corner and come back. But home banker, simply due to the fact of history in this fixture, 2-0 Chelsea. 2-0
Chelsea is 8.25. 1-1 is 8. The actual prices there. On to the next game, which is Newcastle against Manchester City, Paul.
3-1 City. Tough game for them. I think they've just got enough pace and power. Give Newcastle a goal with Isak on the shoulder, especially at home. 3-1 City. 3-1
City is 11. Neil?
Yeah, Newcastle have won 7 of the last 8 home games. City have lost 1 of the last 11 away. Don't do clean sheets. I think City nick it. I'm going to go for a close game, but City to win 2-1.
2-1 Man City. That's 7.75. Only Liverpool win at Newcastle. To Sunday, Everton Villa. Neil?
Everton, 3 Premier League defeats in a row. Aston Villa 1 away clean sheet this season. I think both teams will score, and Everton will not lose this game. Villa have conceded more than they've scored away from home. I think Everton get a draw, 1-1.
1-1 draw is 7. Paul?
Tough is just to nick it. I think, like Neil, it'll be close. But I think Everton will be tough, resilient. Villa have got the pace. But I need to start coming back in these score predictions. I had draw written down, but I'm going to go home win 2-1.
2-1 is 9.25. And the last of this shortened weekend is Manchester United at home to Tottenham, Paul.
I think we're in for a cracker. I think there's both teams that will score. Both teams susceptible defensively. I'm going to go 3-2 to Tottenham.
3-2. There's your Sunday tea time. That's 3-2. Tottenham is 20. What a way to finish. I might give you an extra point for that if that comes in. I might do. We'll see. Neil?
Yeah, I like the sound of that. Goals, yeah. But United at home are better than Tottenham away in recent weeks. I think they've won 4 of the last 5 at home, United. So I'm going to go for United to nick it. I know Tottenham had a boost with a couple of new signings, but United to win this one 2-1.
United 2-1 is 8.75. We need to discuss whether this continues into next week or whether we class this as a full week. The battle commences on WhatsApp as to whether this is a full winning week. We'll see how that goes. Good luck with your selections on the score predictions, and good luck this weekend to you all out there with your bets on sportsbet.io.